You know, it's so interesting as we go through our life cycle, how we approach the stage of life that we're in. When you're younger, usually you're looking forward because you can't wait to get there. And then when you're older, you start looking backwards because you perhaps don't feel as settled where you are. And there are so many wonderful things about each stage of life. The philosophy really shouldn't be that we're racing to get through it or longing for where we've been, but to embrace where we are now and what this now has to offer us. That's why today I am so delighted to introduce you to my dear friend and colleague, Anasuya Basel. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about her, after which we are going to dive into talking about the gifts of midlife and how they apply specifically for women. So Anasuya Basel is a nutrition consultant. She helps women to stop worrying about aging and to love their midlife bodies. She has worked with clients for over 2 decades and is certified in holistic nutrition, as well as craniosacral therapy and acupressure. Anasuya, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be with you, Mira.
You know, I think one of the things that I love so much about your work, and I'm fortunate enough to have been on one of your summits, and I have been in connection with you a number of different ways over the years, is this deep sense of wisdom that you bring to help women really accept that there are beautiful, wonderful things about this stage of life. Can you talk about how you came to address that or claim that as an area of focus?
Well, sure. It started when I was 40. I was asked to teach a class called Acupressure for Menopause at the Acupressure Institute in Berkeley. And I thought, well, okay, I'm 40. I haven't gone through menopause. So I made sure to study a lot and I interviewed all these menopausal women and I held my class kind of like a laboratory where we would explore the experiences of being a midlife woman and what were the traditional Chinese medicine approaches and, acupressure. So I learned a lot from that. When you teach, you learn.
Yeah.
I learned so much so that when I went through perimenopause myself, I knew the nutrition, I knew the herbs, I knew the body work, the acupressure, acupuncture. I didn't do acupuncture, but I went regularly and I felt like, okay, I've got this handled because, yep, I'm feeling some changes and woo, there's a hot flash, one little hot flash. And wow, that's exciting. I'm really going through the change now. I didn't feel it as difficult. I didn't feel it as hard. But then, you know, uh, later in my 40s, I noticed that my husband's behavior was changing. And so one day I asked him, what's going on? And he said, well, I am seeing another woman. And that my life just like fell apart at that point. I loved my ex-husband. I loved our marriage. I loved the dreams that we were creating together. And all of a sudden, like, it was all gone. And there was nothing really to do but go through a divorce. And at that point, the stress levels went up so much that I was having hot flashes like this. And
Wow.
I felt I couldn't sleep. I had so much anxiety, um, and, just much more mood and feeling like, what is it in this life that here I hit midlife and the man that I'm with doesn't want to be with me anymore, he left for a younger woman. So I went through a lot, but one thing I think we have learned as we get older is to know how to ask for help. When I was a teen and went through difficult things, clueless about how to ask for help, but
Aren't
as
we
you
all?
know, right. But in your 40s, you go, okay, I think I need some help. And, I had some wonderful help and I got through this dark tunnel and realized even more clearly not just what women go through physically but what we go through emotionally, because a lot of us, if it's not a change in our marriage, it's a children leave home, it's a change of our motherhood, or it's a change in work. And that can really exacerbate um, any symptoms that we might have. And then we are in a society that doesn't value elders, so doesn't value women getting older. So women getting into midlife start to become an invisible group.
Mm.
And so just realizing that that creates an additional stress on women. You mentioned not knowing where we're going. Like, there are not a lot of examples of older women, like, having glorious lives, on because, TV recognizes younger women more. Not to say that I think that they give younger women a great shake either, but midlife women tend to become invisible in media, and that does affect us. And
Mhm.
so I started to really think about who we are as human beings, which is really different than how the popular culture might be. And as human beings, we do respect elders. We do respect aging. We do understand more. I would walk into the health food store with my 96-year-old woman, my 96-year-old mother, I should say, and people totally respected her. They
Mhm.
would like stand back in awe because at 96, you're really old. And
Yeah.
I was like completely dispelled of the notion that people essentially don't respect old people. You will see it, in different ways, but as human beings in our heart, we do have respect for elders. And it's just, we need to like cultivate that and shine a light on that.
Well, and you bring up such a good point. It's a media perception because I think, unfortunately, our media is very much youth obsessed. And the result of that is a lot of people, and I don't think it's just women. I think in this particular instance, it's anybody starts giving themselves negative messaging as they go through these different stages of life and get older. For women, it's, I think, particularly challenging because whatever role you were in, women tend to have more of a change in their status. Like you said, if you're a caregiver, if you're working in a particular capacity, for a lot of women, work becomes very different because their roles change, even in the workforce. And to learn to let go of those things, and I think for me, one of the things, you'll notice, of course, that I have gray hair, and I started going gray at a very early age, thanks to my beautiful Nana. Um, I just like inherited those genes, and for many years dyed my hair because there was this perception that I didn't want to be seen as old. And the funny thing is, once I let my hair go fully gray, I get more compliments on my hair than I ever did. And I have really curly hair. Like it's interesting how different people perceive it, but there's this internal messaging that we take on. And so I love that the work that you do through your summits, through some of the programs that you have, you teach people to change that inner dialogue and to really embrace this beautiful, wise stage of where we are.
Yeah, it really counteracts that, the negativity. And I do believe that within our small groups, we can create our own circle of positivity around being midlife women. And it just allows ourselves to shine in all the ways that we shine and to really experience that there are actually quite a lot of benefits, to getting older.
So can you share what some of those are? Like, what are some of the gifts of aging?
Well, it's so funny. I run some online wise women circles, and these are based on the way of counsel adapted for online. And so it's a way where we share equal time for speaking from the heart, listening from the heart, and practicing those principles. And, I have had a wise woman circle on the topic of the gifts of aging. And, so that we're not Pollyanna about it, we start with, okay, let's just get it out. There are some challenges of aging, and people put, say, okay, the crepey neck or the wrinkles or that my joints are achy or
Mm.
I need to go to bed earlier because I'm more tired or, something like that. So all these things, it comes out as a torrent. Yeah, it's not that women don't notice these things around
Mhm.
aging. However, once we started to get in what are the gifts of aging, I mean, it just blew it out of the water.
Wow.
Women would say, I no longer get in toxic relationships.
Mm.
I feel much more able to express myself than I ever did before. My intuition is so much stronger. I feel like I can navigate through life
Mhm.
more easily. I have such delight in seeing the younger generation come up, and I feel a natural urge to, mentor and share and support the younger generation,
I love
which
that.
brings so much delight and life. And so it's like when you start thinking about those things, and women were just like kind of in awe of each other and just really appreciating, yeah, wow, this is such a powerful time for us. It just seems like, well, okay, it's worth a few wrinkles. It's worth like a little sagging skin. It's worth like, the gifts that you get, the value of them are so high and so great that it makes it, manageable to lose some elasticity of skin and so on.
Well, and one of the ones that I absolutely love is the mentoring piece, because I personally had such amazing grandparents and some older women who were definitely role models for me in my life. And there is such true value in helping younger generations navigate certain pitfalls. Doesn't mean they're going to listen to you, but to at least be able to offer something so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time is really, really important. Now, I know one of the other things that you have talked about in the past, and I absolutely love this because before I learned it from you, I had never, ever encountered it before, was the concept of yin and yang activities and how supportive they can be for our internal nature. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, this came out of teaching acupressure for menopause using traditional Chinese medicine principles. And there's the concept of yin and yang. So, yang is, light, bright, direct, outgoing. The energy goes out, you get things done, do, direct. It's like this is the energy that's just, this is what gets you promotions or what gets you raises or what gets you acknowledged and what this is very valued in our society. And yin is the energy of being receptive and feeling and sensing, and it's very sensual and it's very nurturing, and it's sort of imagine sort of as yang is going up into the light, yin is sort of down in the nurturing, moist, comforting soil. That's more yin. And the thing is, that the sayings are like yang, directs yin, but yin nurtures yang. So you can't have one without the other, right? But if you're yang all the time, you will collapse. You will have burnout. So that that idea of yin is like, just always remember that a certain amount of time and energy needs to be devoted to going into that deep well. Like you can sense sometimes that deep well inside you. Is it near the bottom? Are you feeling frayed, exhausted, like on the edge, like your nerves are kind of jangled? Or are you feeling like replete? Are you feeling like you've had rest? Are you feeling like, wow, I had a few days off and now I'm filled with creative ideas? That's that yin turning to yang. I've had such great rest. I can't wait to like create,
Yeah.
So that's yin going into yang. And so what I have found, I just have distinct memories of sitting with my group of students in my acupressure for menopause workshops and going, okay, we need to build yin because in menopause, the key pattern is yin deficiency. And yin
Mm.
deficiency shows up as this heat like hot flashes and night sweats and like the heart palpitations. And it's not true heat. It's not true heat in the sense that it's not because you have so much yang that you're having hot flashes. It's because your yin is depleted that it can't balance, it's not balancing out
Mm.
the heat in the body. So it's not, that's how we would talk about it. And so we would say, okay, you can do acupressure points to support yin building, but what can you do as a person? You can't just have acupressure all day long. So what do you do? What are yin building activities? And these are the activities that are, I say now, screen free. They're relaxing, they're enjoyable, they're sensual, they're pleasurable, and they're things like walking in nature. There are things like, you know, crafting, relaxing with friends, having a hot bubble bath, you know, just things that where you can just go, ah, and have that feeling after you've had a really good massage where you almost feel you're in an altered state, you're so relaxed. That's the kind of yin building that we're looking for.
And I love
And it,
that
you know,
because, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, it's just incredibly transformative. I mean, it changes your hormonal balance because it brings the stress hormones down, and that helps the reproductive hormones to be more in balance. It changes the neurotransmitters so that you are having more balanced moods and emotions, and it just has an incredible biochemical effect on you.
And so one of the things that I was going to share is, since I learned about that from you, I definitely carve out time each week to make sure that I'm getting a certain amount, because it's not necessarily that I can do it every day. Like life is life and you can't always plan the same things, but I make sure that during the week I get at least a certain amount of something, whether it's gardening or, you know, sometimes I'll be silly and I'll just put on some music and dance for myself, or doing some kind of crafty work or whatever. And one of the things that really occurred to me one time when I was planning this, there were a lot of other pressures on what was going on in my life at the moment, just a lot of things going on at that time. And I realized that our society as a whole tends to really approve of and focus on that whole yang energy thing. Like we should be doing, we should be productive, we should be out there, we should be like just productive, moving, go, 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 go. And we forget to nurture that slow down, rest, relax, restorative phase. And so I love that you specifically point that out and help people learn how to nurture that within themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the old saying, Mira, it just occurred to me. This is like, you know, from the 50s era nuclear family glorification. Behind every successful man is a good woman. You know that old saying,
Yeah.
which, you know, as a woman entrepreneur or as a woman in the world, I mean, you don't have a wife to like
Yeah.
stand behind you and make your meals and do your laundry. You're doing like all of these things, right? So it's very easy to arrive at midlife like absolutely burned out. But it's like we have to have that, you know, be that good woman for ourselves. And otherwise, that part of us that's outward and doing is going to just collapse.
Yeah, no, that's such an important point, and it's such a critical piece of self-care and of self-support as we go through this next midlife phase of our life. Honestly, this has been really amazing. I always love talking with you. This I've learned so much. Thank you. If people wanted to connect with you further, where would they find you? And is there any sort of program or anything going on that you can tell us about?
You can find me at my website, mybodywisdom.net. That's mybodywisdom.net. And there is a free ebook where I share some of my suggestions for renewing yourself in midlife. And I have a interesting project that I'm working on that I will be offering a program in soon, and it's rites of passage for midlife women.
Oh, wow.
And what I've discovered, one of the gifts of midlife is to uh, go back and things that you missed in life, things that you, or talents that you didn't get to use, or activities that you didn't get to do, you have another chance to do them. I recently had a Wise Woman Circle on the rites of passage, and it was in some ways not surprising, but in some ways also shocking to find that most women have never had a rites of passage for their adolescence, let alone for what the huge change they go through in midlife. And so I am creating a program for midlife women to get together and talk about, in a wise woman circle setting, talk about like important topics that are meaningful for us so that we can come to a place of acknowledging our wisdom, come to a place of really respecting where we are in midlife, and
Mm.
together create a ceremony that really honors us so that we can step into the next phase of our life fully holding this new, the gifts of this new stage of development. So that's, if you get on my mailing list, you will be the first to know when I have that class to offer.
That sounds amazing. I can't wait. When it happens, we'll be sure to put the link down below. So at some point, there will be a link there for that. So we'll definitely include that. Honestly, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for talking with us today and sharing all of your wisdom around this beautiful, much needed topic. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Mira. It was really a delight to speak with you.
Thank you. And for everybody who's watching, please do not forget to click like and subscribe down below. That way you'll be notified when we have other recordings going on, and you'll be able to stay on top of all of the fabulous guests that we have and the various topics. So I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye.